When was the last time I made a video? Oh, okay then. I guess we've got some work to do. Hello again. I'm sorry that it's been a while, but I'm back now and I promise I will not be going anywhere for a bit. Anyway, let's continue talking about films. Death of a Unicorn is a new satire, dark comedy, fantasy and horror film, executive produced by Ari Aster, and this is the featured debut by writer and director Alex Scarfman. The film is about father-daughter duo, Elliot, played by Paul Rudd, and Ridley, played by Jenna Ortega, who hit a unicorn with their car and bring it to the wilderness retreat of a mega-wealthy pharmaceutical CEO. I was very excited for Death of a Unicorn. I found the trailers to be self-aware, weird and fun. But it saddens me to say I wasn't a fan of this, and it's a shame because I really wanted to love it. But there were some positives, such as the good performances. I felt everyone did a fine job and I could tell the entire cast was enjoying themselves when they filmed this. Jenna Ortega, Paul Rudd, Richard E. Grant, Tia Leone and Jessica Hines all did decent jobs. There were a couple of standouts to me. Will Poulter, I found that he gave everything as the rich CEO's son. The other standout to me was Anthony Carrigan as the character Griff, once again just like he did in the brilliant dark comedy series, Barry, performed such comedic subtlety that it gave me a couple of chuckles. At this point, I will watch Carrigan in any comedic role. The film is paced with such fastness, it gets straight into the story, being a non-stop, fast ride and never stops for a break, which felt appropriate for the wacky tone this film was going for. There were a couple of decent and gory kills, especially this one character that gets stabbed by a unicorn's horn on the chin, that it leads to a satisfying, disturbing and effective kill. Shows some obvious references, but at the same time, inspiration from other films in the same genre Death of a Unicorn is in, such as E.T. during the government research on the unicorn, and also Alien when some of the characters are trying to hunt down other unicorns in the woods. The setup of the story is contained, interesting, and could have gone into some exciting directions, but instead, the rest of the film doesn't do that. This brings me to the negatives of the film. As this is classed as a dark comedy, I found most of the humour to be unfunny. A lot of it just comes out of nowhere and doesn't land well. The CGI unicorns were shockingly poorly made, and I hate to say this, but they were ugly. They never looked striking, and for the horror scenes, scary. But my biggest problem with Death of a Unicorn was the script being on the nose. It presents itself as this big-headed and cocky story with its themes and one-dimensional characters. For example, the rich narcissistic family were the typical bad rich folk, very much care more about making a lot of money out of this unicorn's breakthrough DNA by government research and less about the consequences of the unicorn's nature. Based on research by Jenna Ortega's character, Ridley, discovered. It's one of those satirical films about exploitation, capitalism, and where humans should not at all mess with nature. Another example is Paul Rudd's character, Elliot, who is one of those fathers who cares more about work and less about family. Along with the repetitiveness of Elliot's and Ridley's difficult relationship, when Elliot is constantly on this rich family side and not on his daughters when they're experimenting on this unicorn. Also, and eventually, the conflict they all face against these other unicorns. In the end, it's all so obvious and precise. I wish this film wasn't like that. Instead, it should have been focused more on subtlety and engagement. My rating of Death of a Unicorn is not my cup of tea. Look, it may not have been for me, but I'm interested to see what others will think while it's out in cinemas, and in the future if it may become a cult classic or a misunderstood film. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please let me know your thoughts about the film in the comments below. Before I go, I just wanted to say sorry for my absence. I'm sure you, the viewer, can understand that sometimes life can get pretty busy and crazy. I did get the chance to see other films that I didn't get to review on here, such as Mickey 17, the latest film by Bong Joon-ho, and Opus starring Io Edinburgh, and a few other new films that were released back in March. If you're interested, you can check out some of these as written reviews on my Letterboxd. The link is in the description below. Feel free to watch another video. Have a wonderful day, and until next time.